One of the big topics, obviously, this week has been our federal election. Voter turnout in some areas was rather low. I was reading last night that obviously around the nation's capital in Ottawa, voter turnout was huge. A lot of points in the West were not so good.
But yeah, including here in our area, voter turnout was bad. And across the country, it is down from the last election in 2015. And something you've been bringing up and really wanting for the last, I don't know how many years, Mike, is voting online. And I know you often ask the question, why can't we just vote online? Wouldn't it increase participation by voters? Well, let's talk about this now with Jeremy Epstein. He's a vice chair of the ACM U.S. Technology Policy Committee and was recently quoted in an article about this very thing. Good morning, Jeremy.
Good morning.
Well, thanks for joining us. Listen, I think this is brilliant. I want online voting. I want to do it from my house. Maybe we can figure out if I could do online banking at my house and make that secure. Why can't we vote at home on our online systems, either on our phone or tablet or our computer?
Technologists pretty much uniformly agree that online voting isn't a good idea. It's controversial among technologists in the same way that smoking is controversial among doctors. Yeah, you might find some doctor who thinks smoking is a good idea, and you might find some technologist who thinks online voting is a good idea, but it's really not the mainstream. And there are fundamental differences between voting online and banking online, as you say, starting with the risk of damage, the requirement for a secret ballot, the budgets that election offices have to secure their systems. So it's really not comparable.
So when you talk about banking online, you've got the big banks who have put this in place and the funding behind it to make sure it's secure. You're saying that voting, there isn't the funding to do that in every location that would vote?
That's right. Also, banks can and do accept a significant amount of fraud because it's cheaper for them than to lose customers or to have more branches with more hours. But we can't afford, whether in Canada or in the United States or anywhere else in the world, we can't afford to lose 1% of the votes the way banks can afford to lose 1% of the money through fraud.
That's interesting. That's an interesting point. So is there any other secure way that people like yourself, people involved in the tech industry have come up with to make voting, one, secure and maybe more convenient, or is it the old paper ballots the way to go?
It's kind of ironic, but computer scientists overwhelmingly encourage paper ballots because we know what the risks are, unlike, say, people who build airplanes who know how to build airplanes safely so that they don't crash, putting aside the 737 MAX, of course.
Right.
But we know how to do many things with technology safely. We really don't know how to do internet voting safely. There is a fair amount of research in the area, but there's nothing really that's ready for commercial use at this stage of the game in the view of the vast majority of technologists.
So really, are there two main concerns? One being that hackers could get in and change results, and two, that a secret ballot is not so secret. There's a really easy way to track how somebody voted.
Right, and there might be malware or viruses on the voter's computer that might change the voter's vote before it ever leaves their computer or their phone, for that matter.
Wow.
We know how to do this. This is fairly easy technology, and why risk democracy?
And it sounds like this would maybe hold up election results in the courts or recounts for years because the loser of that election could just claim there was, some issue with the online voting.
Absolutely. And also, one of the things we know from commercial breaches is it's an average of about 275 days after a breach occurs before you discover the breach. What if that breach was a breach of the election system and you don't find out until an average of 275 days after the election that the election results were wrong? It's not like you can say, oh, let's back out all those laws that were passed and all the policies that were changed over 275 days and rethink that because someone manipulated the elections and we need to do it over again.
Yeah.
Undo and redo doesn't work very well for elections.
No, it sounds like a nightmare. Well, when you put it like that, Jeremy, it totally makes sense. So you've Mike, you'll
crushed
never
me.
bring that up again.
You've crushed my idea, Jeremy. Jeremy Epstein, he's the vice chair of the ACM U.S. Technology Policy Committee. Wow, that sounds official. Not to be confused with Jeffrey Epstein, the financier and convicted sex offender. That is not who we talked to this morning. So when I Googled Jeremy, Jeffrey came up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jeremy, for your time.